All right, man, we back again. Another episode to give me some space. I got a couple guys with me today. One familiar face, big guy, Jeremiah Bradford. What's up with you, bro?
My good brother. I appreciate you having me, man. I love it. I love it. I'm here for this. Let's get it.
I appreciate you, man. And I got a new face here, another brother of mine, Mr. Terrence. What's going on, man? Introduce
How you
yourself.
do? How you do? How you do? Terrence. I'm pretty good brother Travis and another brother Jeremiah here.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate y'all, man, for real. We're gonna get into it, man. We ain't gonna hold you, we're gonna get right into it. This episode I would like to call Give Me Some Space to Fight My Giants. And the giant that we're gonna discuss today is family trauma. Now, I've been hearing a lot about, a lot of different things about family trauma going on and just the different ways to deal with it, like how to defeat it. So I want to open the floor up and start off by saying, asking the question. And Jeremy, I'm start with you, big guy. What does family trauma look like to you? Like when I say, what is family trauma? What does it look like?
Honestly, man, for me, I think family trauma is subjective. It looks like a plethora of things, right? It could be from, I think we look at it on the surface, it could be something as, hey, your mom and dad, or abandonment, or it could look at abuse or something like that. Or sometimes, or it could have, like I said, your mom and dad maybe abandon you, or auntie and uncle, something like that. You also can have family trauma from a two-parent household. So I think it just depends on your situation and how subjective it is. You can have two bodies in the house, but still feel alone. It doesn't. So again, I'm just going to answer. I'm gonna throw the general answer in there and just say it's very subjective, man.
Okay.
And I don't think it just tackles any certain area. I think it tackles everything because everybody has different levels of what they can handle and what they can't. So that's what trauma is to me.
Facts, for sure. Mr. Terrence, what you think, man? What does family trauma look like to you?
Oh man. The biggest word, the key word that you're saying there stands out is trauma. Trauma could be physically, verbally, mentally, it can be spiritually. So things can play on trauma real bad, and it tends to leave us with something that you went through that you never got a chance to actually, got some understanding about. So it tends to go with you through the period of time of your life if you haven't got some dealt with that. So trauma can be a lot. My trauma with me was pretty much, coming in a single home. Because I think we all want to be loved as kids, and and it's I think majority of us can say that it's a lot of broken homes that we've been in. So I had to learn how to get past that, not having a father in the house like that. So like you was just talking about Jeremiah, that what you would come from, Jeremiah, is like the orphan spirit. An orphan spirit is pretty much where you've been hurt from your parents or somebody in your family, and it tends to bring that trauma along as come from a child to a grown-up, and you still had it on your head, still playing on that because you never pretty much find the forgiveness or things still the same way where it was when you was a youngin. So that orphan spirit is a big heavy thing in the world right now. That's still out. So trauma, man, is like you say, it's subjective to a lot of things. But my biggest thing was just coming in a broken household.
Now, do you feel like can trauma be a generational thing?
It can.
I agree.
Yeah, it can. It can be passed down from one generation to another generation. And if it's never taught, if it's never discussed, because a lot of times things we don't know is because it's never been told, it's never been spoken of, and we just tend to carry it without even understanding how to release it or have somebody talk to about the situation.
I definitely agree. I tell people all the time, me being in the military, you go into a new organization, you move around a lot, and you go somewhere, you ask somebody, hey, why do you do this? The number one answer, they say, well, we always done it that way. Same thing with our families. Why is this? Why are we still in, having financial issues, or why are we still doing these things, or, why are we, following these same generational curses? That's the thing. Generational curses, because you're only doing what you learned and what you're passing down. So that's where that comes from. So just like Terrence said, if no one ever just takes the time to really deal with their stuff maybe get some spiritual counseling, maybe some other, type of counseling, and just really sit down and rip off that Band-Aid. All you're gonna do is pass it down because that's all you know. All you know is trauma. So you're gonna operate in trauma because now, guess what? There's no longer an exception. That's now your standard. Right. My family's supposed to operate in trauma. So you just literally just keep on passing out to your kids and they pass it down to their kids.
Yeah.
So is trauma, would you say family trauma is considered, or is it categorized more as a problem for the family, or is it more about you?
A little bit of both. I say a little bit of both because I think that it is as a kid, you're born, we're blank canvas, like art, we're blank canvas. We're literally only taking in, we're soaking in all the knowledge from our surroundings, from our mom, dad, aunts, uncles, or whatever. So therefore, that's when it's dealing with our family. They're pouring everything that they think they know or whatever trauma they have and actions into us. And then it starts to become about us, right? As we start becoming like consenting, teenagers and young adults and things like that. And we start kind of figuring out what we want our life to be. Either we can go left or go right, or continue to curse or generational curse, or decide to break it. So I think it starts off with your family, but at some point you have to, in order to break it, you got to make it about you. To free yourself from trauma, doesn't matter if you're personal trauma or your family trauma, you have to make it about you.
What about you, Terrence? You feel the same way? You feel like
Yeah,
that you play a bigger part, or is it about you more? Or is it about your family more?
When you growing up, being young, you're surrounded by your family a lot. I think pretty much all of us can vouch for that. When we was young, we seen our aunties, uncles, and cousins so much.
Right,
but as you get older, you realize all that separates. Y'all don't see each other so much because life takes its toll. And so, a lot of those things that you had attached to when you was young, that trauma plays on you when you're around each other so much. But then I think about it, you have to be strong-minded as well. Because a lot of people are not strong-minded to get through problems. Some people still hold on to problems back when they was young and haven't got over that yet still. You ask one question, they go back and still get mad about a question that, just because it brought back a memory or something. Yeah. So I remember what Jeremiah said on one of the last videos. He's like, you got to learn how to be you, learn you, do you first. It's all about self-development when you come down, you talk about trauma, because you have to find yourself. You really have to be in self-development to understand the trauma that you're facing and know that's a giant. Like we saying, it's a giant that you have to learn how to conquer. If you don't fight this giant, that giant's going to pass down to the next generation, because what you don't fight, your next one's got to fight.
Right.
So I think it's like to me, it's like a both, like you're saying, it's family and you too.
At what point do you think that you can start to realize or develop that sense of, I have to defeat this now or it's going to carry on? Like, is there a certain age? Because there's a lot of young people who don't understand that they're dealing with family trauma right now. They just see a lot of problems piling up, or they don't get along with their parents. They don't talk to their family. They just feel like an outsider. They don't know how to, that person that kind of feels like nobody can connect to them. Like, my parents just don't understand me. They just don't get me. Like, is there a certain age where it kind of sets in like, hey, this is bigger than me?
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest, dude. I said this in a previous video. For me, everything starts sitting in with me when I had my daughter. It doesn't matter. Like I say, man, I tell you, I went. My story, big guy. I mean, Terrence doesn't, but know my story. Like from raised with my mom. Me and dad issue kind of up and down, and went a whole decade without speaking basically to my father. Again, not in a different state, same state or whatever, just not speaking just for, trauma issues. You think you know everything, just holding, as what Terrence said earlier, something that's happened years ago, you still holding on to it 15 years ago. But literally me holding my daughter, in my arms, I'm like, I can't pass this down to her. She deserves to have two sets of grandparents. She deserves to have this. And actually, what's your beef with that, right? What's your beef? So again, you have to make a decision. And sometimes we want this big laundry list of things to say, well, you need to do this. Actually, man, sometimes you just need to swallow your pride and say, hey, what you did was what you did. What I did is what I did. I apologize. We family, and let's move on. And that's it. Now, again, it ain't always that easy for some people, but sometimes it is that easy. For me, my kid, I cannot. My daughter would never know anything about that kind of stuff because again, it don't matter. You got to break that. And I decided to move forward with that for me and my family again. Because again, so for me, a lot of things started when I had a child. It's like, wow, I got trauma. I got some things I need to handle, so I can make sure that she doesn't fall in on those things.
That's good. That's good. I can relate to you on that too, Jeremiah. I can relate to that. I found out mostly coming up as a man, you learn through the hurt and pain how to love, and you realize, either you can use trauma in a bad way to keep you down, or you can change the trauma for the good. Like Jeremiah saying, he changed it for the good.
Right.
That was my trajectory as well. I used my hurt and changed that hurt into happiness. So I learned as a young man growing up, like he's saying too, when I had my children, to realize how to be a better father, to realize how to be a better man, a better husband, because of what we went through in our childhood, trying to find love or how to feel love. We wasn't getting that love out there. So I was like, you know what? The love that I feel, it's the love I want to give. So my kids never remember the same thing like he's saying. I'm the same way like that too. So
That's good. And it kind of lead right into my second question, which was, can pressure from family or can trauma from family affect who you become as an adult?
Oh, for sure. Because I seen something on Instagram, man, that says if why, as parents, because again, it's a two-part answer for me. It says if childhoods were so great, why are there so many adults that's getting therapy right now? So many adults doing things, because guess what? I don't hold anything against my parents, because guess what? Me being a parent now, you never been a parent before. You don't know you're only doing what you've been taught and what you've lived, and that's it. And you're doing the best you can. You really are parenting. And as I only have one child, but I'm pretty Terrence, you probably have multiple. You got a couple kids. Yeah, it's like every child is different.
Right.
Be raised in the same house. You have a brother, I had a brother. I mean, just every child is different. So yeah, I think that a lot of times we put, yeah, for sure, it can be passed down to you. Your parents can have pressure on you, man. But it's definitely it's just it's a very, for me, it's very slippery slope, man.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It can be passed down. I think, and even in my family right now, we're still dealing with that, real life situations. So, you really have to know that in life, it comes with tests and trials, and having trauma is part of it. It knocks a lot of people down, and only so many can get back up from it. So I'm just, you really need some people that you can really relate to and talk to understand that kind of battle that we face. I think we all face that in a point in time in our life, and you have to be able to cope with it, or help somebody pull you out the weeds, get you out the mud with it, because it can't hold you down in your life for real.
And I'm gonna flip it around, big guy. I'm gonna flip it around for you. A lot of times we think about trauma and we talk about pressure as negative. I'm gonna tell you what, sometimes the pressure of you have to make it, right? You got to be the first one to go to college. You got to do this so you can get us out of this situation. You got to do this because your uncles or somebody didn't do it. It's like, hey, sometimes we think that our parents maybe, putting that, that stigma on us, like, oh, Travis gonna make it. Terrence gonna make it. So now they're thinking that's a motivational tool. But as a lot of times, the number of young males that are put into at 10, 11 years old, you're the man in the house. You got to step it up. You got to do this. Yep. That's pressure, and that creates trauma. Yep. Again, pressure turns right into trauma.
And stress.
Again, pressure, stress, exactly. At 10, 11 years old. So I tell people all the time, it's not just a negative. I say it's not all negative sometimes. Sometimes it can meant to come off as positive, but it can turn into stress and trauma.
Right.
Yep. Always trying to be perfect.
Yeah. Because I mean, that is a lot to put on, a 10 or 11-year-old saying, hey, you're the man of the house. Like, you the man now. And you don't even know how to be an 11-year-old. Like, you like, I'm just, only thing I know is how to go to school. And I really don't want to do that for real. I halfway do my homework, but I just want to play. But now you're telling me I got the whole responsibility of being a man in the house. Like, how am I supposed to handle that? But, and I think about it as from another angle too, as far as even building up to that moment. Like, can you imagine like how many generations that it's been to lead up to that moment where let's just say God has appointed you as the curse breaker. So, you know, think about it, how many generations this curse or this trauma has went through, and now it's all on you. But that's not a bad thing because that means that God sees enough strength in you that you can overcome this thing. But from a human perspective, it's like that's a lot when you think about it, as far as your whole family line and where this thing may have started from to
Mhm.
all the way up until this moment, saying, okay, now I have to be the one to break this curse. So it's like, how do you feel like how are you supposed to overcome your family? Like, how do you overcome your family in that aspect, saying that, okay, I'm taking this upon myself to break this? Like, how do I do that?
Mm.
Whole lot of faith, whole lot of faith, and you better have some faith, and you better have a walk with the big guy upstairs, because again, when you're trying to do something different, you're gonna meet a lot of resistance, and resistance from your family. Sometimes your parents. I mean, it is the who again, who you think you better than, who you think you are. This is what we always did. You think you about to come around here and do da da da. You think you got a education, you missed a big da. And again, so you have to know who you are and understand the bigger picture. And so even those comments, you got to make sure that you can even get past those comments. So it goes, you better have some faith. You better have a you better have your big boy pants on.
Most definitely.
Because everybody ain't gonna
When,
be cheering for you.
when
No.
you're breaking things off your family, the road doesn't necessarily feels good. You know, it's nothing easy about this walk when you really trying to, when God got you built to take this test
Mhm.
to change the trajectory of your family. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep,
so
yep,
what we speaking about, I'm actually walking on that road. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's a lot of weight, but I know I'm not carrying it by myself. I know that, you know, we was destined for greatness. You know, we're conquerors, we're more than conquerors. So it feels good. But at the same time, yeah, you can feel the weight of it too,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
but
for
you
sure.
know there's a light at the tunnel. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're changing, your mind's changing. So your atmosphere is changing, your environment is changing, people around you is changing, because as you move up, you start realizing, you know, hey, everybody ain't coming with me down this road. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So when you're paving this road haven't been paved. So you gotta lay down the whole foundation, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
It comes with a shovel, you know, and you got to keep shoveling. But it's like I say, like Jeremiah saying, it's worth it though, man. You got to have faith. You got to have God with you, because he made us to go through these kind of storms and come out strong at the end of it.
and I think it goes back into what we talked about before, as far as when you're getting ready to take that journey, as far as, you know, breaking that family trauma. And now we're entering back into that what we talked about before, which is the wilderness, right? Now
Right.
you're forging your own path that's never been created before, in hopes of the people behind you having a path to follow, right?
That's right.
So it takes a lot to go into that. Go ahead, big guy.
And I'm gonna tell you something else about forging your own path. Just because you breaking the curse, you gotta tell yourself as well, everybody behind you ain't gonna follow it.
Mhm.
It's true.
That's just a fact. I mean, if your
Yeah,
family been doing something for 2, 3, 4 generations, you come in and say, "Hey, I done did this. I done went to school. I done did X, Y, Z. Boom, boom, boom. Hey guys, follow me doing this." You also, just the way you're representing your side, is other people in your family that's gonna be saying, "Well, we did all this and we've been making it all these years. Go do this." So you still have to stand firm in your faith, understanding your beliefs, and saying, "Hey, I'm doing the right thing and I'm following my calling and I'm walking in my purpose." And this is
right.
still, even if you can save one person, it's
Yeah.
worth it. Mm-hmm.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, how do you know, um, like at what point do you realize or you feel like, you know, like I'm right? And like, is it okay to tell your parents that, hey, what you're not doing is right? Like, you know, mom, dad, I think you're doing this wrong. Like, like, is that okay? You know, to say that?
I say, to me,
Let you hit it
it's
first.
it's a it's a place. I think it's okay, because I realize that everybody got their own journey. You know, what worked for my mom, worked for my dad, that didn't necessarily work for me.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I learned that my road was tailor made. You know, the road I walk on, too many people can't walk on it, because it was just made for me to walk on. So even
Mhm.
with my sons, raising my sons up, I don't expect them to come down this road I've been on. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Even when my mama tried to tell me, "Well, son, go to school, you need to go to college," like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
You see what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? I
Yeah.
just knew what worked and what didn't work. And it's like you couldn't convince me that that was the thing for me. So I got it out the streets. But I was a grinder. You know what I'm saying? I worked.
Yeah.
So my working still took me to levels, and I still did good in the
Yeah.
streets, getting out
Yeah.
the streets.
Yeah.
That was my road. So
Mhm.
yeah, I had to, you know what he's saying, you had to stand firm in what you believe in. I just knew that that wasn't gonna work for me. And
Right.
I had to stand up and say, hey, no, mom, I'm grown now. I can say no without getting hit in my mouth.
That's
So
it.
that's gonna happen. That's gonna
That's
happen.
it.
What you think, big guy? Can
Yeah.
you tell your parents no? Like,
Yeah.
mom, hey, no, like that ain't for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because just because you're saying no, I'm always gonna show I love my mother and father dearly. I'm never gonna disrespect them. But you definitely can say no for sure. And even with that, right? I think even a lot of parents as we grow and as we're adults now, and again, a lot of people that I work with, I listen to a lot of people, I mentor a lot of people, and I tell people, parents, a lot of times parents don't realize that they can hurt their kids' feelings as well. Even as adults, you can be disrespectful, especially when you get grown. A lot of times, well, there's yeah, you're my mom, you're my dad, but there's also a level of respect. I
Right.
ain't gonna let you disrespect me, in my house or outside of my house. I definitely think that line of respect has to be there in general. Because again, I always keep a line of respect for my parents. I don't care how old I get to the day the good
Right.
Lord sends me home. I'm gonna always have a level of respect for my mom and dad.
Yeah.
But now I also require that they also have a level of respect for me as well. So I
And
definitely
since
think it's okay to tell them no.
and since you both parents, like, what do you do or what do you say to make sure that you're not on the opposite side of this, that you're not applying trauma to your kids? You know what I'm saying? Because that can be easily passed down if you're not careful. You can be pushing them in a totally different area of trauma or creating a totally different category that you're not aware of that you're doing. So what steps or what parameters do you take to stop yourself from doing that to your kids?
I say good question because we have seen a lot of parents hinder their children's future because of what they want to see their children do instead of letting them learn what their children good at.
Right.
I'm not gonna be that father to tell my boys, hey, I did this. This is what I expect you to do. I have to learn that both of my childs are different. Both of them got different talents and gifts. The thing is, find out what you want in life
Mhm.
that makes you happy, not what I want for you. I'm just happy that you're here. I want you to find your identity in this world because that's how I had to find myself.
Right.
So I flourish in finding myself. I thrive in this. You know what I'm saying? So I want
Yeah.
them to do the same thing. I don't want to hinder their future because I don't know what God got for them until that time comes. But I just want to develop them, being a son, making them to a man, and
Yeah.
pray that you find your development along the way.
For me and my daughter, man, handle my stuff first. Handle my stuff because again, that's what I'm saying. We have to address and look ourselves in the mirror, especially if we got stuff going on. Say, hey, man, I got some trauma myself I have to deal with, so I don't have, I don't pass that on to my daughter. And to piggyback on what Terrence said, I love my little girl to death, man. I'm just gonna be you hear me say it all the time, big guy. Being present. People ask me about parenting all the time. I say you cannot put a price tag on being present. Those kids just want you there, man. I don't care if you got a newborn or if you've been out of your kid life 15, 20 years. I'm 32 years old, about to be 33. I need my father and mother now just as much as I needed them when I was 8.
Mhm.
There's always a role. The way your marriage and relationships evolve, your parents, your relationship with your parents evolve as well. So for me, I'm just gonna, handle my trauma and give her the space to live, give her the space to do her thing and be present with that. And correct her along the way. Make sure
Right.
she does the things she's supposed to do. But overall, let her know that she has a loving father in her corner and say, I'm gonna ride with you till the wheels fall off.
I like it, and I got a two-part question for both of y'all. Start with you, Terrence. So the first part is, what trauma, if any, do you feel like you may have had to break coming up until this point? And what trauma, if any, not trauma, but what trait do you feel like you would like your kids to have from you?
Okay. Forgiveness was a big thing. Um,
Mm.
that's hard pill to swallow when you really got to find the forgiveness when you've been hurt.
A lot. That's a
You
lot.
know, I had to find the root of that, because it's so when you don't find forgiveness with something, trauma will take over. I mean, it will really play on the enemy. The enemy will come in your door swinging on that, and once you forgive, it's like a place of peace and freedom.
So
I
on that a
had
little
to
bit,
find that forgiveness.
how do you forgive? How did you forgive?
Oh man, at the time, I was at a place where I was mad, with my father about some stuff because I just really wanted to stay with him for real. I just want to see what it felt like to be up under the same roof.
Yeah.
And that didn't go too well too much. So I ended up getting put out. So I got mad. So my mom was like, he's gonna need you. He's really gonna need you down the road. And when she said that, it took my anger to a place where I was like, oh, he gonna need me. Like really? After all this? And at the end, I started getting blessed behind that. I bought my first house after all that, going through that storm with him, and the joy that I had, I could have forgave him, and I found that forgiveness. It's like the mountain moved. I was able to come back to him. Still to this day, we got a good relationship.
Yeah.
But it's through forgiveness.
Yeah.
I could sit right here and still talk to him because one thing I had to realize is I only get one father on earth.
Right.
The Bible says you honor your mother and your father. So I had to learn how to forgive to honor.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In the second question you asked about the trait is just promote love. The world is really missing that, whether you're young or old. Love is still essential. It's contagious. We're in a world that's so jacked up right now, and everybody's fearful. But the love is speaking so many ways. It's speaking a lot.
Yeah.
So that's something I would just pass down to my boys, man, because you never get tired of loving. And it's that agape love, meaning it's unconditional.
Unconditional, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's the kind of love I got that I give everywhere I go. It ain't just to my sons and my wife. It's when I go to work, when I'm out in the neighborhood, when I'm at the gym. My love is radiant. I'm putting it out there to everybody.
Yeah. What about you, big guy? What trauma, if any, that you had to overcome up until this point, and what trait would you like your daughter to have from you?
I got it. Look, Terrence stole my answer, man. He must have been looking at my notes. Definitely mine was forgiveness. I had a lot of stuff happen, man. A lot of people, a lot of things happen again, just over the years, and even up until this point, just really didn't want to, acknowledge them. But again, from dealing with, father, where you grow up at, and even general, just meeting people along the way, and you start realizing that, man, you can't use that as an excuse. Right. You got to be resilient. You can't use that as an excuse. And for a long time, I carried it as a badge of honor. Oh, I'm this way because these things happened to me. Mm-hmm. But you got to push that stuff aside, because you can't be no 40-year-old man saying, my dad had left me when I was 5, and that's the reason I'm out here robbing banks. True. You're going to jail. Mm-hmm. You're going, and again, and that's just, and I tell people that all the time. I'm very empathetic, and I acknowledge people's stuff, but I said, at some point, you got to hit an age or a wall and say, we have to take control of our lives and our situation. And that's what God blessed me to do. It's like, you know what, man, it ain't going to be perfect, but you can't control everything, but you can control this. So I had to start to forgive.
So how did you forgive? Like I asked him, like, how did you go about?
And for me, it was instantaneous. I mean, I had to realize that I gave my mother and father some grace. Didn't have a bad childhood and everything. Very loving mother, great family, grandmother, grandfather, all that stuff. But I started giving people grace. And I started giving people grace before I realized what grace was. Because that's just the way God works. He puts things in us and we start to display them, because guess what? We're going to need them on the back end. Right. Because I tell folks all the time, we love to say, give me some grace, but you don't want to give nobody else no grace. Mm-hmm. Because we all going to make some mistakes, right? Right. So I started and I gave them some grace, because guess what? Now that I'm a parent, I realize that they just doing the best that they can. They really are. Yeah, they made me mad sometimes, and I disappointed them from time to time, but they literally were doing the best that they could. So I got to give them some grace, and I got to forgive them, because of, again, just like Terrence said, you get one mother and father, period. And it's too many times, especially in our community, we get together over a case of drinks and some chicken from Publix or KFC when we land somebody in the ground.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. So while we here amongst the living, let's give some people some grace, forgive some folks, and move on and control those days ahead. And the one trait I would say I want to give my daughter, oh, it's easy for me, my work ethic. I said I ain't never been perfect, and I'll tear something up real quick. But I'm definitely I'm a go getter. I'm a 4 o'clock in the morning guy. I'm a A-type personality, and I'm gonna give it the best I got, regardless of whatever life's throwing at me at that time. So I would love for her to have my work ethic, because I know whatever she goes into, doesn't matter what field, doesn't matter whatever she do, she's gonna give her best effort regardless of whatever circumstance she's going through.
Gotcha. I got you. And another thing is, what do you feel like you got from your family, as far as even dealing with the trauma, the pressure? Like, what do you feel came out of that for you?
Mm. Um, to me, it well, I like the fact that Jeremiah, I know both of you guys have your mothers, your fathers. So I lost my mom. You know what I'm saying? So with her being gone, just through this marriage and having kids right here, it just made me just drive the car even harder. You know what I'm saying? Like, the torch has been passed. So now it's all gas right here. It's like everything we do, it got to go show enough. We got to
Yeah.
keep driving till it's time to pass this torch to our babies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All I know is just going forward, not looking back. So through the trauma, going through losses, going through hits, taking losses, taking all those things, it just made me stronger inside. I feel like a beast right now. Like, you just
Yeah.
can't be touched. So that trauma, I'm like, you know what? We use it for the good. And and our trauma ain't bad trauma, because if you can stand inside of your trauma, stand on top of your trauma, you can help somebody else in theirs.
Right.
And that's what I figure, with me being a leader like I am, I use my trauma to help get people out of theirs, or to cope with their trauma, because I always learn, when you go into a season, somebody coming out of one, or you coming out of one, somebody going in one. So some trauma is good for you to go through, so you get somebody to come out of theirs. I'll
What you
leave it right
think, big guy?
For me, what I learned is just family and like what Terrence said, family and love, man. Honestly, from all my trauma, doesn't matter what it is, for the good, bad, and the ugly. Even some of the hardest, coming out of one of the hardest seasons of my life, my mother and father was there. I mean, regardless of what history we may have had, whatever, if I made them mad, or again, the way we say we do things that our parents do things that we don't like, I'm pretty sure we ain't perfect. We do things they don't like as well. But regardless of, hey, I'm still your mom, I'm still your dad, I'm still your auntie, I'm still your uncle. Like, family is still gonna be there. Family is family, and that's just one thing I've learned out of trauma. Is just like, once you start, again, forgiveness is for you too as well. Again, you going to bed with that stress on your mind at night. You know what I'm saying? You doing all that stuff. So just let you mean love, and just your family still being there, still being present for you, still riding with you. That's what that trauma has definitely made for me, and definitely set the tone to help me deal with it and help me be a better father.
That's
I
good.
got you. I got you, man. And I want to close this thing out by, I always like to, kind of speak to anybody, not just the next generation, but even the current generation, because you can be, 50 years old and still not talking to your parents. You can be dealing with family on any level. Like, there's no age limit that says that you're not dealing with this type of stuff, from a cousin, any relative. So starting with you, with Terrence, what would you say to that person who's going through something with their family? It could be, any type of argument. It could be something, financially, where somebody owes somebody some money and they just fell out. Like, what do you tell that person that's facing that giant of family trauma?
Um, get it together while you got time. Sometimes we tend to think we got all the time in the world to fix something, but we don't realize, time is short. So fix the problem while you got the problem. You know what I'm saying? Don't let a problem trigger all the way down the road, and you find out you don't have time, or this person will leave this world, and you you never found men with each other about coming to closure, you know. You know, we really got to find out really it's the love and what we're doing for real still goes right back to that love, you know, and that forgiveness, because bitterness is bad for the heart. You know what I'm saying? It's like poison. And so in order to keep that poison out, you have to do the opposite, which is find forgiveness and find love with each other. And but like I say, I just figure time is of the essence right now. We need to find time to get it together now and stop thinking we got forever to get things together, you know.
What about you, big guy? Same question. What would you tell that person? What would you tell that person that's dealing with trauma? They don't really know how to get through it. They ready to give up on family, like they just don't know.
Attack it head on and deal with it. Swallow your pride. Pride is the devil. Swallow your pride and deal with it. Again, we have so many people, like Terrence just said, man, you like time is of the essence. You know, people love to say all the time, like you said, we think it's an unlimited data plan. We just got unlimited time, in which we do not. We all plan on borrowed time, just to be honest. So deal with it. You need to deal with your trauma. This is the time, man. It's the time. This is the place. And also my biggest thing is it's never gonna be a right time. It's never gonna be a comfortable time. It's never gonna be an ideal time. It ain't never, well, I'm gonna wait until after their birthday, or I'm gonna wait until after Christmas, or there's always gonna be something. Yeah. There's always gonna be something to wait after. Trust me, because we'll find it. Right. I'm gonna wait after grandma and them anniversary because, you know, I'm gonna wait after the death of that. No. Do it while you're thinking about it, while you got time to say what you need to say and deal with your trauma. Because again, it's bigger than us. It's bigger than you. It's for your kids, they're unborn kids. We are now standing on the shoulders of giants and we don't even realize it. Yeah. But guess what? One day your kids gonna be standing on your shoulders. And I think about that kind of stuff. So deal with your stuff, tack your head on, and be honest about it. Don't tell people what you want them to hear. Tell them what they need to know.
I think another thing too, before we close it out, when we talk about trauma is like a root. That means that it traces back to something. Right. In order to beat trauma, you have to realize what causes trauma. We got to get to the root of what causes us to do what we do, because everything has a reaction to where it comes from. Right. You know, trauma is a root. It comes from a tree. So we have to trace that back to really get that root uprooted to really beat the trauma that we're going through.
I like it, man. I like it. Understanding, I want to say, just understanding that, you know, the giant that you're facing, you know, understand what's in front of you. Real quick, it just leads me back, you know, everybody knows the popular story of the Bible, David and Goliath. Everybody knows that story, but just looking deeper into that story, you know, historians actually say David was like, you know, 4'10", somewhere in there, and Goliath was like 8 or 9 feet tall. So just facing that giant, you know, understand the situation, and also understand that, you know, David didn't see Goliath for what he was, because he knew what was inside of him. God gave David his instructions. So you got to often believe, you know, what you hear from God and not always what you see. So you got to know the difference in the belief versus the vision. Understand what's in front of you and understand that you're actually bigger than your situation.
That's good.
You know, understand that. Hey, man, look, it's been a great one. You know, guys, I appreciate y'all, man. As always, big guy, thank you again.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me. You know, I'm always trying to jump in, man.
Mr. Terrence, man, I appreciate you gracing us with your presence, man. Thank you.
Likewise.
Definitely got to have you back in the future, man. You know,
ton of knowledge.
You know, and you know, we're gonna do it again, man. I appreciate y'all, man.
Much love. Love y'all, man.
Yes,
sir.
Love
you too, brother.
All right.